me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to your one-stop shop for all things NFL postseason, aka the Louie T Network. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me as we'll break down everything there is to know about this postseason here on the Louie T Network. And we start in Wildcard Weekend with the first of the 4 matchups that we will see in Wildcard Weekend, featuring 2 AFC South opponents, aka family business. You know how the family do it. If these 2 teams say they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's family business between the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts. Texans come into the game as the number 3 seed in the AFC postseason. Meanwhile, the Colts got in on the very last game of the NFL regular season, defeating the Tennessee Titans and capturing the number 6 seed, which got them this berth and a chance to take down the Texans for the 2nd time this season. Both teams split the season series, winning in the other's home turf. And so these teams aren't strangers to going on the opposition's home field and getting a dub. And we're going to talk about what's going to take in this football game for each team to come out victorious. And I'll give you my prediction at the end of this video. But I want to start with the keys to victory for the Indianapolis Colts. It's going to be a tough ask of the Colts to go into Houston and win for the 2nd time this season. They did it just a mere month ago. However, the Texans are a tough football team. They play defense. These teams aren't strangers to one another, but the Colts are going to have to do specific things to come out on top. Let's take a look at their keys to victory, and we start with the Colts and what they need to do on the road to come out victorious and upset the 3rd-seeded Houston Texans. First key, limit the mistakes. All right, this is a Colts football team, especially Andrew Luck on the offensive side of the football, that is prone to mistakes. We've seen back-breaking mistakes from Andrew Luck, mistakes that have put his team in some very precarious situations. Need I remind you of the interception that he threw in a game that they had well in hand versus the Tennessee Titans, and that allowed the Titans to climb back into that football game. Got to limit the mistakes. After that interception, the tide turned. There was a fumble. All right, Jayon Brown single-handedly tried to take over that football game, and the Colts helped him almost do exactly that. Have to limit the mistakes. There was a bad interception that Luck threw in the game where he had to bring the team back versus the Giants. Can't have those types of mistakes. Limit the mistakes in this football game if you're the Indianapolis Colts. Can't have Eric Ebron wide open and have him have one of those concentration lapses that he is apt to have every now and again. Gotta make sure that you limit the mistakes. Can't put yourself in tough down and distances because of penalties. Can't drop the football when you're open. Can't miss opportunities in this game. Limit the mistakes. Can't have the back-breaking turnover if you're the Indianapolis Colts. Limit the mistakes in this football game. The next key to the game for the Colts: run the football effectively. Run the ball effectively. If you're going to win this game, I think it is imperative that you're able to remain balanced and run the football. Now, in the previous 2 meetings between these 2 teams, Colts haven't had a lot of success running the football. As a matter of fact, in the first meeting between these 2 teams, you didn't even have your feature back, Marlon Mack, in that game. And so he was able to play in the 2nd game, but they really held him in check, and Andrew Luck had to put the team on his shoulders, which he had no problems doing in that football game. And although the score indicated that that game was relatively close, that meeting last time out when these 2 teams played in Houston really wasn't that close. The score doesn't tell the story. The Colts had that game well in hand late, 27-17. The Texans tacked on a touchdown late to make that score look more interesting than what it really was. If you can find a way to run the football, and even without the success in that game, you're still stuck with the run. Marlon Mack generally isn't a 25 carry a game back. He's the guy that you want to get it to, 15, anywhere from 15 to 20 times in the run game, and you wouldn't mind tossing it to him 3 or 4 times out of the backfield either, even though you have a back in Nyheim Hines that you want to throw it to out of the backfield. Mack is the guy that you still got to feed the rock to I think the Colts need to run the football, even if it's not effectively, even though it says effectively, just running the football, remaining balanced. When the Colts run the football effectively, in games where Marlon Mack has went over 100 yards, this team is undefeated this season, so keep that in mind. When he's running the football successfully, this team is awfully hard to beat. You look at the next key to the game. T.Y. has to show up, not Eugene. I've said this numerous times that Eugene Hilton is not welcome anywhere that this Colts team travels. T.Y. must show up, and he has been huge this season against these Texans. In both games, he went over 100 yards receiving, including systematically taking them apart in the last matchup in Houston to the tune of 9 catches for $199. He was the standout performer in that game. If they can get another performance out of him like that, they'll duplicate what they were able to do a month ago in Houston, and that's come out with a W. He's going to be one of the focal points of that Texans defense. Believe me, they know what T.Y. Hilton is capable of. They know that he can systematically take them apart and take over a game single-handedly. He's done it before. He will do it again if they're not careful. He is hampered, however, by shoulder and leg injuries, ankle injury, all of the above. However, he's still dangerous. He's going to play, and he's still a guy that if on the field, you must account for. If T.Y. Hilton shows up and not Eugene, the Colts will have a great chance at winning this football game. Next key, make Watson beat you. Don't get nuked, all right? So it's really simple. You don't want the run game to be a crutch for Deshaun Watson, okay? When they are able to be balanced, they're a dangerous football team. When they've got Lamar Miller going and they got Alfred Blue going and all of a sudden Watson's using his legs and next thing you know, play action fake is opening up the middle of the football field and Nuke's getting one-on-one coverage because your safety's getting nosy, that's a problem. Don't get nuked, all right? No more, with no Demaryius Thomas with the injury, and that's really unfortunate for the Houston Texans. With him being out of this game and out of the postseason, you can really centralize your focus on one man, and that's DeAndre Hopkins. The reason they traded for Demaryius Thomas was for situations exactly like this where you couldn't just key in on one guy. You had to focus in on other guys that could hurt you. Now, without Demaryius Thomas, other guys are going to have to step up. We'll talk about that here in a second, but for the time being, don't let Nuke beat you. If someone else wants to get you, if Kiki QT wants to show up and go nuts, let him. If someone else wants to get you, fine. Let him have at it. It can't be Nuke. It can't be number 10. He can't get you for 10 for $176 and 2 touches. You're going to lose a football game if that happens. You have to keep this man under control. And if you're the Indianapolis Colts, make Deshaun Watson beat you. Make him feel the pressure. This is his first postseason appearance. He doesn't know what this environment feels like. Make him feel the pressure of having to put the team on his back. He's fully capable, but I'd like my chances with Deshaun Watson feeling like he's got to go out and make a play on 3rd and 9 versus, hey, let me just move the sticks on 3rd and 3. I want Deshaun Watson to feel like he's got to squeeze it in that tight zone coverage hole right there, have it tipped in the air and picked off, rather than him saying, hey, bootleg, play action fake, got my tight end coming across the formation wide open, dump it down on 3rd and 3, move the sticks, and have them be balanced offensively. If you allow them to stay ahead of the sticks, you allow them to stay on schedule offensively, Deshaun Watson won't feel the pressure of having to put the team on his back. They'll be balanced. And most likely, he won't turn it over. When he turns it over, they are very beatable. When he takes care of the football, they're a tough team to beat. Force Deshaun Watson to beat you. That will help aid in potentially him making some mistakes. And finally, the last key to the game for the Indianapolis Colts. Be aggressive, but not over-aggressive. So, let's talk about this. Let's expound upon this, shall we? Look, the reason you're in the postseason, the reason you were able to dig yourself out of a 1-5 start and get to 10-6 in the postseason is because your head coach, Frank Wright, is aggressive. That's in his DNA. He came from Andy Reid's tree. Andy Reid is an aggressive coach by nature. He then was under Doug Peterson, who is even more aggressive than that of Andy Reid. And so that has been embedded in him, that being aggressive in today's NFL, going for it on fourth down, going for two-point conversions when it's unconventional, these are things that Frank Reich believes in, fourth down especially. However, in your games that you've lost of late, all right, keep this in mind. Had Frank Reich just played for the tie, and I'm not a big proponent of playing for ties, but in that particular situation where it was really a no-win situation for the Colts, you needed to play for the tie. Had you tied that game instead of going for the jugular there, you would have won the division. This game would be in Indianapolis right now and not in Houston. Instead, his over-aggressiveness in that game cost you an opportunity to be playing this game at home and being division winners this season. Another game that his over-aggressiveness cost you, the Jacksonville game just a few weeks ago, where you were shut out in a game that you went for it on fourth down about 3 or 4 times and failed on every single one of them. Too aggressive. And again, in a situation, you got to know when to take the points and you got to know when to be aggressive. He was aggressive on Sunday night versus the Titans. It panned out and you end up winning the football game. It's who he is, but there's a fine line there of being aggressive and helping your team and being over-aggressive and hurting your team. He's got to know where that line is, draw it, walk it, and do not cross it. We'll see if he's able to do that. Be aggressive. Hey, you have to take the temperature of the game, know what your defense is capable of, know down and distance the situation, know, okay, even if we don't get this, our defense is playing well. They can get a stop. They're in a good position. Or say to yourself, hey, the risk isn't quite worth the reward. If we don't get this here, this could really cost us. Know the momentum of the game. Be aggressive. I'm not trying to neuter your coach and tell him not to be aggressive. That's what's gotten you to this point, his aggressive nature. But I'm also telling you, don't be over-aggressive. That's gotten you beaten too many times this season. And in the postseason, one mistake can be enough to cost you a victory. Be aggressive, not over-aggressive. Those are the keys to the game for me, for the Indianapolis Colts. Let's get to the Texans and what they need to do to win against the Indianapolis Colts. And we start with good D. Stand up. All right. I watched this Texans team dominate games defensively this year and win handily. The Sunday night game versus the Cowboys comes to mind, a dominant performance defensively to help them win on a night where the offense simply could not get into the end zone. The defense had to stand up. They did. You ultimately won that game in overtime. I've also seen this defense be shredded. And if that defense shows up, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't want to see Deshaun Watson getting into a shootout with Andrew Luck, because I'm telling you right now, that advantage goes to Andrew Luck. If this game is in the 30s, you're going to lose this football game. All right. If this game is played in the 30s, high 20s, you're probably going to lose this football game. This game needs to be played in the low 20s into the teens. If you can keep this game low scoring, you've got a great shot at winning this football game. Your offense, especially now without a guy like Demaryius Thomas, it's going to be somewhat limited. You're going to have to find ways to score points if you're the Texans, but the defense can't be the same defense we saw against the Philadelphia Eagles a couple of weeks ago, where you get shredded by Nicholas Foles, give up over 400 yards passing, damn near 500, and give up over 30 points in a loss. In a game that you should have won, that would have had you playing in the divisional round instead of wild card weekend. You would have been on a bye right now as the number 2 seed in the AFC. You can't have that defense show up. You've got to be better on defense, the good defense, the team that shut down Jacksonville last week, the team that we know is fully capable of going out and shutting down opposing NFL offenses must show up. If they don't, you will lose this football game. I promise you. Andrew Luck is primed and ready to shred you if the good Texans defense does not show up in this football game. Next key, take advantage of opportunities. There will be opportunities that come your way in this football game. Trust me. Andrew Luck is good for one boneheaded throw a game, at least one. He's going to trust his arm or he's going to panic at least once and try to fit the football in a spot where it doesn't belong, you must take advantage of that opportunity. Andrew Luck is good for at least one a game. At least one a game. Take advantage of that opportunity. If Adam Vinatieri decides he wants to miss a kick from 42 yards and you get great field position, take advantage of that opportunity. If Eric Ebron decides he wants to drop the football on 3rd and 7, take advantage of that opportunity. If Frank Wright decides he wants to go for it on 4th and 1 and you get a stop, take advantage of that opportunity. Opportunities will present themselves at various points of this game. If you fail to take advantage of it, you will find yourself on the short end of the stick. You take advantage of some of these opportunities that present themselves, and you'll probably be moving on to the divisional round with a victory. Next key, Watson in total control. Look, at the end of the day, the run game is a nice add to this offense. But this offense is only going to go as far as Deshaun Watson takes them. All right, the run game is complementary. It's great when Lamar Miller is able to go for, 115 yards on 22 carries. That's awesome. That's great. It's nice when Alfred Blue is able to spell him and chip in with an additional 44 yards running on just 7 carries. That's awesome too. But guess what is ultimately going to win you this football game? Deshaun Watson being in total control. Deshaun Watson not turning the football over. He's been among the best in the league since about the midpoint of the season in taking care of the football. When he has taken care of the football, you see the results. The Texans won 9 straight games. All right, this guy, when he is not making mistakes, when he's using his legs as a beneficiary, a benefactor, getting out of the pocket and extending plays, whether to use his legs to run or to extend a play to find someone down the field, he is dangerous. One of the better dual threat quarterbacks in all of football. But when he is making mistakes, and we've seen him make some mistakes before this season, I think about the Giants game. You were down in the red zone multiple times against the Giants, and Watson threw 2 crushing picks in a game that you had no business losing at home to the New York Giants. I watched Watson make some mistakes this season that cost his team dearly. He will make mistakes if pressure is applied, but if they do a great job of calling this game, speaking of which, let's get to the next key in this game. Nuclear bomb, tight end du jour, and Kiki, do you hear me? Look, at the end of the day, Nuke is the guy. He's going to be the one that gives you the best opportunity to win this game. So nuclear bomb needs to go off on Saturday. Nuke needs at least 12 targets in this game. We know his catch ratio is ridiculous. He has no drops on the season, yet the man has over 100 catches this season. It is ridiculous, okay? Or over 100 targets this season. It's ridiculous. In any event, that guy needs to be heavily involved in the offensive game plan. There's no excuse for him not to be in this football game, but he can't do it by himself. You know the Colts are going to be keying in on number 10, so you have to bring some help to the table, and I really feel like the tight ends are going to have to step up, and really, it's tight end du jour, tight end of the day. I could care less if it's Ryan Griffin or one of the Jordans. I could care less. Somebody's got to step up and make a play or 2 in this football game, and that may be the deciding factor, and it may not be Nuke. It may have to be one of the tight ends. They may have to step up and make a couple of big catches in this football game, maybe a touchdown grab. The tight end, someone's going to have to step up in the absence of Demaryius Thomas, and that someone may also be Kiki QT. Kiki, do you hear me? Your team needs you in this playoff game if they're going to get a win. You're going to have to step up, bruh. You're going to have to make plays. His speed is so game-changing. He's going to have to make some plays. He's going to have to fill that Will Fuller role in this game. He's got to make some plays as well. They've got to find creative ways to get him the football and get him out in space. If he's able to do some things in this game too, to take some of the pressure off of Nuke, this team could be dangerous because we know the defense is capable, but is the offense capable of doing enough? We will see. And finally, the final key for the Texans, be balanced. Red zone efficiency. Look, I know that I talked about Watson and him needing to be in total control, but they're going to have to remain balanced and resilient with the run, even if it's not working. The Colts have done a great job after making the switch and taking one of their defensive ends, that is, and moving him to defensive tackle. And that's made a huge difference. They love to stunt and twist in the middle. And so if you're the Houston Texans, you've got to do a great job of blocking up front, because this is an aggressive Colts defense when it comes to trying to stop the run. Margus Hunt has slid inside. It's made the world of difference. He's penetrating and getting into the backfield, blowing things up. Their linebackers are flowing to the football. We know about Darius Leonard and what kind of a standout he's been this season. You have to remain resilient, however. Even if the Colts are causing problems and you're not able to run the football as effectively as you would like to, you have to remain resilient in running the football. You have to be balanced. And if you move the football and get into the red zone, one of the Achilles heels this season of the Houston Texans has been their lack of red zone efficiency. We all remember the Sunday night game versus the Dallas Cowboys and how they were unable to get into the end zone. We've seen them struggle in instances this season in scoring in the red zone and having to settle for field goals. You're going to have to score touchdowns. Field goals won't get it done in this game unless the defense is playing at a very high level. I don't see them keeping Andrew Luck and this Colts offense out of the end zone multiple times, and thus you're going to have to score touchdowns. It's probably going to take 23 or north thereof to win this football game. And like I said, if the defense shows up and is able to limit the Colts to 23 or less, you're probably going to win this football game. If it gets over 23, you could be in trouble, and that's where that red zone efficiency will come into play. You have to score touchdowns. You have to find a way to put 6 on the board instead of 3, because the Colts, trust me, they're going to go for it on 4th down. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to try to score touchdowns. They're not looking to settle for field goals, so you're going to have to be more efficient in the red zone. I'm talking to you, Bill O'Brien. You know I'm not a huge Bill O'Brien fan. You're going to have to be balanced in your play calling. 1, 2, you're going to have to be efficient in the red zone. So those are my keys to the game and victory for both teams. Here's my final outcome. I see the Indianapolis Colts coming out of this game victorious. Look, Andrew Luck has had his way with this Texans team since he's come into the league. They should have swept the Houston Texans. At worst, come out with a win and a tie. Instead, they split the season series. But make no mistake about it, the Colts are more than capable of going into Houston and winning a football game. And now without Demaryius Thomas on that offense, I really feel like the Indianapolis Colts are primed to go into Houston and come out with a victory, 27-20 over the Houston Texans. That's my AFC Wildcard breakdown of Colts Texans. We'll break down Cowboys and Seahawks in a little bit. I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage it could be. I'll see you guys next time. Remember, I'll be on live directly after this game has met its conclusion. So join me for AFC Wildcard overtime at the conclusion of this football game. Texans hosting the Colts. I'll see you then. Enjoy the activities. You know I will. And I'll see you directly thereafter. Have a good one. Louie T.